On my wedding day, my mother-in-law whispered, "You're not good enough for my son." But she had no idea about my hidden fortune. My name is Elena, and if someone had told me a few years ago that my life would turn into a whirlwind of secrets, family betrayals, and revenge sweet as nectar, I wouldn't have believed it. I grew up in a modest neighborhood in Madrid, the daughter of hard-working parents who barely made ends meet. My father was a mechanic, my mother cleaned other people's houses, and I, since childhood, dreamed of escaping that suffocating routine. I studied on scholarships, graduated in finance, and started working at a small investment firm. But what no one knew, not even my fiancé Carlos, was that I had an innate talent for the stock market. I invested in cryptocurrencies when nobody took them seriously, backed startups that took off, and built a fortune that by the time I met Carlos, already exceeded 5 million euros. I kept it secret because I didn't want anyone to see me as a walking wallet. I wanted to be loved for who I was, not for what I had. Carlos and I met at a cafe downtown. He was handsome, kind, a software engineer from an upper-middle-class family. His mother, Doña Victoria, was the kind of woman who looks down her nose at you from the very first moment. Widowed for 10 years, she controlled her children as if they were extensions of her ego. Carlos had an older sister, Marta, married with 2 kids, and a younger brother, Pablo, who still lived under his mother's roof. From the day Carlos introduced me, Victoria scrutinized me as if I were an interloper. "Where are you from, Elena? What do your parents do?" Innocent questions on the surface, but loaded with judgment. When I told her about my humble background, her smile twisted into a thinly veiled grimace. "Well, love conquers all," she said, but her eyes said otherwise. The months leading up to the wedding were a subtle hell. Victoria interfered in everything. The dress, the menu, the guest list. "Elena dear, you don't want to invite your entire extended family, do you? It would be overwhelming for our friends." Translation: Your relatives are too common to mix with mine. Carlos, bless him, tried to mediate, but he was blind to his mother's manipulations. "Mom just wants what's best for us," he'd say. I swallowed hard and smiled, while boiling inside. My hidden fortune was my secret shield. I had it invested in anonymous properties, offshore accounts, and a fund that was growing exponentially. Only my best friend Laura knew the truth, and she advised me, "Don't tell them anything until it's necessary. People change when they smell money." The wedding was planned at a beautiful estate on the outskirts of Madrid, with 200 guests, imported flowers, and luxury catering that I secretly paid for, pretending it was a gift from a distant uncle. The day dawned sunny, but my stomach was in knots. I dressed in a simple, yet elegant white suit, designed by a local seamstress. While I was getting my makeup done, I received a message from my broker. "Your portfolio just passed 7 million. Congratulations." I smiled to myself. If only they knew. The ceremony was perfect. Carlos looked at me, with eyes full of love, as we exchanged vows. But right after, during the family photos, Victoria came up to me. Her cloying perfume wrapped around me like a toxic fog. She leaned toward my ear and whispered, "You're not good enough for my son. He deserves someone on his level, not a climber like you." The words hit me like a punch. I froze, faking a smile for the cameras. How dare she? In that moment, I decided it was time to reveal my trump card, but not immediately. I wanted it to sting. The reception was a whirlwind of toast and dancing. Victoria strutted among the guests, recounting stories from Carlos's childhood, deliberately ignoring me. Marta, her daughter, shot me pitying looks, as if she knew something I didn't. Pablo, the younger brother, was the only one who seemed genuine, but he was under his mother's thumb. Carlos noticed my tension and asked, "Are you okay, love?" "Yes, just nerves," I lied. That night, in our honeymoon suite, I told him what his mother had said. He went pale. "That can't be. Mom loves you." But he promised to talk to her. We returned from the honeymoon, a trip to Bali that I secretly financed. and the family storm broke. Victoria called Carlos for an urgent family meeting. I was grudgingly invited. At her house, a villa in La Moraleja, we sat in the living room. Victoria, with her pearl necklace and Marta's expression, declared, "Elena, you don't fit into this family. Your background is a burden for Carlos. You should reconsider this marriage." Carlos stood up, furious. "Mom, enough." But she continued, "I've spoken to a lawyer. If you don't sign a prenuptial agreement that leaves you with nothing, I'll cut Carlos out of the inheritance." The family inheritance was modest. The villa, some savings, nothing compared to mine. I laughed inside. That was the last straw. The next day, I called my own lawyer. I revealed my fortune to Carlos that night in our new home, which I had anonymously purchased as a surprise gift. His eyes widened like saucers. "Elena, how? Why didn't you tell me? I wanted you to love me for me, not for the money." We cried, we hugged, and we planned our counterattack. We invited the family to a reconciliation dinner at an exclusive restaurant. Victoria arrived with an air of superiority, Marta and Pablo in tow. During the appetizers, I brought it up. "Victoria, I know you think I'm not worthy of Carlos, but let me tell you something." I took out my phone and showed bank statements, property titles, investment reports. I have a fortune of over 7 million euros. I bought this house, paid for the wedding, and I could buy your villa 10 times over if I wanted. The silence was deafening. Victoria choked on her wine. "What? Impossible. You are poor." I explained my story. Shrewd investments, hard work in silence. Carlos beside me smiled proudly. Marta stammered, "Elena, we didn't know." Pablo applauded. But Victoria flushed with rage. "This is a trap. You want to buy us." "No," I replied calmly. "I only want respect. And if you won't give it, I'll cut off any financial help Carlos gives you. Because guess what? His salary is now supplemented by my income." The following days were chaotic. Victoria tried to manipulate Carlos with tears and emotional blackmail. "I'm your mother. Are you going to let that woman humiliate me?" But Carlos, for the first time, stood firm. "Mom, Elena is my wife. If you don't accept her, we'll distance ourselves." Marta, seeing the winds change, approached me asking for financial advice. Pablo congratulated me in private. "You're awesome, sis-in-law." But the drama didn't end there. I discovered that Victoria had been spreading rumors among mutual friends that I was a scammer, that my money was dirty. Furious, I hired a private investigator. It turned out Victoria had her own secrets, gambling debts built up over years, which she had hidden by selling family jewelry. I confronted the family at another meeting. "Victoria, your inheritance is at risk because you've blown thousands at casinos. Here's the proof." I showed documents. She crumpled, sobbing. "I didn't know what to do. After your father died, I felt so alone. For a moment, I felt pity. But I remembered her whisper at my wedding. I forgive you if you change. But from now on, I will control the family finances." We agreed to a plan. I would pay off her debts in exchange for therapy and a public apology. At an extended family dinner, Victoria stood and said, "Elena, I was wrong. You are more than enough for my son. Thank you for saving us." Tears rolled. But this time they were genuine. Today, 2 years later, the family is different. Victoria is humbler. Marta and I are allies, and Pablo is thriving with my mentorship. Carlos and I are expecting our first child, and my fortune has grown to 10 million. I learned that money doesn't buy love, but it can silence the critics, and that whisper at my wedding. It became the catalyst for my empowerment. Never underestimate a woman with secrets. Let's go back to the beginning to understand how I got here. My childhood wasn't easy. We lived in a small apartment in Lavapiés, where street noise slipped through broken windows. My father, Antonio, came home exhausted from the workshop, his hands stained with oil. "Study, Elena, so you don't end up like me," he'd say. My mother, Rosa, scrubbed floors from dawn to dusk, but always found time to read me stories. "You'll be great," she whispered. At 15, I started working as a waitress after school, saving every cent. In college, I got a scholarship to study finance at the Complutense. There I learned about stocks, bonds, and the power of calculated risk. My first investment was in Bitcoin in 2015, with 500 euros from my savings. Everyone said it was a scam, but I combed through forums, read white papers, and took the bet. When it exploded in 2017, I multiplied my money by 10. Then came Ethereum, Tesla stock, and an AI startup I exited for $1 million. I did it all in secret, using aliases and accounts in tax havens. I didn't want my parents to know. I feared they'd worry, or that money would change our dynamic. I bought them a new apartment, pretending it was a lottery prize. When I met Carlos in that cafe, it was raining. I ordered a black coffee. "Hey, a latte." "Excuse me, can I sit here?" "All the tables are taken," he said. His smile was warm, genuine. We talked for hours. Books, dream trips, ambitions. He worked at a tech company, earned well, but wasn't flashy. Our first date was a picnic in El Retiro. I fell in love with his humor and kindness. But when I mentioned my family, I noticed a shadow. "My mother is protective," he admitted. The first dinner with his family was a disaster. Victoria welcomed us to her villa, with the table set like a royal banquet. "Elena, tell us about yourself," she said, pouring expensive wine. I told my humble story. She nodded then. "How admirable. In my family we all studied at private schools. Carlos went to ESAID. The message was clear. You don't belong." Marta, her daughter, was a lawyer married to a banker, with kids in elite schools. Pablo, the youngest, studied art, but Victoria pressured him to do something serious. Carlos defended me subtly, but the tension lingered. The wedding preparations made everything worse. Victoria insisted on a designer dress that cost a fortune. "Elena, you don't want to look plain," she said. I paid for it in secret. I chose the flowers. Too colorful, they look like they're from a street market. The menu. No paella, it's vulgar. Carlos and I had our first argument. "Love, Mom is just helping." "She's not helping, she's controlling," I replied. But I gave in, piling up resentment. On the wedding day, I woke up early. Laura, my maid of honor, helped me get dressed. "You're glowing," she said. In the church, walking down the aisle, I saw Victoria in the front row, her face made of stone. The vows were emotional. "I love you for who you are, Elena." But during the photos, her whisper froze my blood. "You're not good enough." Tears pushed to the surface, but I held them back. At the reception, I danced with Carlos, faking joy. Inside, I was making plans. That night, in Bali, I told him. He called his mother from there. "Mom, what did you say?" She denied it. "Just motherly advice." Carlos hung up, angry. Back home, the family meeting. Victoria in her living room. Expensive paintings and antique furniture. "Elena, your background is a problem. Carlos needs someone from his own social tier." I kept quiet, letting her sink herself. Carlos exploded. "Enough." But she pulled out a prenuptial agreement. "Sign or I'll cut him out of the will." That night, I told Carlos everything. I showed the banking app, documents. He sat down, stunned. "Elena, this changes everything." "It changes nothing. I love you." We planned the reconciliation dinner. At the restaurant, overlooking the Guadarrama Range, I laid out the evidence. Victoria turned pale. Lies. But my lawyer walked in with folders. "All verified." Marta gasped. Pablo smiled. Victoria tried to counterattack. "Money can't buy class, but it can buy freedom," I replied. Then came the rumors. Friends told me. "Victoria says you stole." The investigator uncovered her debts. 200,000 euros in online casinos. Confrontation at her house. "Victoria, you're ruined," she cried. I lost control after I was widowed. I offered conditional help, debt payoff, therapy, apology. The public apology came at a big family gathering. I was wrong, Elena. You are family. I accepted, cautiously. Now with our child on the way, the family is united. Victoria cooks for us. Marta asks for advice. Pablo invests with me. My fortune grows, but the real treasure is the respect I earned. That whisper became the start of my triumph. After the seeming reconciliation with Victoria, I thought the waters had calmed, but fate had other plans. One day, while going through old documents at my mother-in-law's villa, I had agreed to help her organize her finances as part of our deal. I found a dusty box in the attic. It was full of yellowed letters, faded photos, and a diary that had belonged to Carlos's late father, Don Rafael. Curious, I started leafing through it, and what I read took my breath away. The diary revealed that Rafael was not Carlos's biological father. It had been a secret kept for decades. In her youth, Victoria had a brief affair with a bohemian artist, and Carlos was the result. Rafael knew, but raised him as his own out of love for Victoria. I love him as if he were mine, but the weight of this secret consumes me, he wrote in an entry dated 1990. My mind spun. Why was Victoria so controlling? Was it guilt, fear the truth would surface? I didn't know what to do. Telling Carlos could shatter his image of his family, but keeping it made me an accomplice to a lie. I decided to confront Victoria in private. I found her in the garden, trimming roses with trembling hands. Therapy had softened her, but she was still fragile. Victoria, I found this, I said, showing the diary. Her eyes filled with terror. Please, Elena, don't tell anyone. It was a youthful mistake. Rafael forgave me, but if Carlos finds out, she sobbed, sharing details. The affair had been brief. During a trip to Paris when she was young and rebellious, Rafael realized it when Carlos was born, with features that didn't match. I raised him with love, but I always feared he'd leave me, she confessed. I promised discretion, but in return, I asked her to go deeper in therapy and to treat the family with more honesty. This explains a lot about your control, I told her. But the past doesn't define the future. Weeks later, in a family therapy session, Victoria decided to tell all. Carlos was in shock, pale as a ghost. I'm not Dad's son, he murmured. There were tears, hugs, and a healing process. Surprisingly, it strengthened our bond. Carlos saw me as his anchor in the storm. Thank you for uncovering it, Elena. Now I understand why Mom was like that. Freed from the secret, Victoria became more open, sharing real stories from her youth. The revelation brought us closer, turning drama into growth. Marta, Carlos's older sister, had always been the family's perfect one. Married to a successful banker, 2 kids in private schools, a life of appearances. But after my revelation about my fortune, cracks appeared. Her husband, Javier, lost his job in a bank merger, and suddenly their debts, mortgage, luxury cars, extravagant trips, were drowning them. Marta called me one night, her voice shaking. Elena, I don't know who else to turn to. We're on the brink of bankruptcy. At first, I hesitated. Marta had looked down on me before, siding with Victoria, but I remembered my humble roots and decided to help, not with charity, but with empowerment. I invited her to my office. I had started a small investment fund and taught her the basics: budgets, safe investments, diversification. I won't give you money, Marta. I'll give you tools to earn it yourself. She resisted at first. I'm not like you, Elena. I don't have your talent. But I insisted, and we began weekly sessions. I showed her trading apps, lent her books on personal finance. Javier joined us, and together they invested in a family business, a sustainable fashion boutique, using my supplier contacts. My initial capital gave them a boost, a $50,000 low-interest loan. Drama escalated when Victoria found out and accused Marta of taking advantage of me. You're just like your father, a spendthrift, she yelled at a family dinner. Marta defended herself for the first time. "Mom, Elena is teaching me to be independent. You should try it." It was a turning point. Months later, the boutique prospered, and Marta repaid the loan early. "Elena, you saved me. But more importantly, you changed me," she told me at a celebration dinner. Now she's my partner on some projects, and her kids call me Aunt Elena, the money magician. That crisis showed that family drama can lead to unexpected alliances. Pablo, Carlos's younger brother, had always been Victoria's black sheep, a dreamer and artist, uninterested in stable careers. He lived at his mother's villa, painting in the garage, but without direction. After I became part of the family, I noticed he was talented but insecure. "Elena, Mom says art doesn't pay the bills," he confided one afternoon. I stepped in, using my network, from investments in creative startups. I connected him with a gallery in Madrid, but it wasn't easy. Pablo had student debt and a fear of failure. I offered him a deal. "I'll loan you money for your first show, but you'll work part-time in my office, learning finance." He agreed, and we began. Mornings he painted. Afternoons, he analyzed markets with me. "It's like art, but with numbers," he joked. Drama flared when Victoria discovered the loan. "You're spoiling him, Elena. He should get a real job." We argued. "Victoria, Pablo's talent is real. Let him fly." Carlos mediated, and in the end, she relented. The show was a success. He sold 10 paintings, covering the loan and more. Critics praised him, and now he exhibits internationally. "Elena, without you, I'd still be in the garage," he told me at his Barcelona opening. Victoria, proud for the first time, hung one of his pieces in her living room. That support transformed Pablo and healed family rifts. 2 years after the wedding, we announced my pregnancy. The family exploded with joy, but drama wasn't far behind. Victoria insisted on getting involved. "The baby must be born at the private clinic we use, and the name, if it's a boy, Rafael, after my husband." I remembered her past intrusions and set boundaries. "Victoria, Carlos and I will decide." During the pregnancy, hormones and stress revived old conflicts. Marta, with mom experience, gave helpful tips, but Victoria criticized everything. "Don't eat that, Elena. You'll gain weight like a commoner." An ultrasound revealed twins, and the chaos grew. Pablo designed the nursery with artistic murals, a sweet gesture. The climax came at a baby shower Victoria organized without consulting me. She invited her snobby friends, ignoring mine. "This is for the real family," she said. I snapped. "Enough. My fortune pays for this." "But my patience is running out." Carlos confronted her, and she apologized, admitting in therapy, "I'm afraid of not being part of this." The twins were born healthy. A girl, Rosa, after my mother, and a boy, Antonio, after my father. Victoria adores them now and respects my decisions. This new chapter revived old drama, but forged stronger bonds. With my fortune growing to 15 million, I decided to use it for good. I founded an organization for women from humble backgrounds, offering scholarships and mentorship. I involved the family, Victoria, as an honorary advisor, to redeem her past. Marta in legal, Pablo in design. But drama struck when a media scandal erupted. A tabloid printed rumors that my money came from shady sources, planted by an old rival in the investment world. I investigated and confronted him. It was a jealous competitor. I used my resources to sue and won. The family united. Carlos used his skills ethically to trace the leak. Marta handled the law. Victoria, surprisingly, defended me publicly. My daughter-in-law is honest and generous. The foundation flourished, helping hundreds. Now we run family workshops, where we share lessons in resilience. This closed circle turned that hurtful whisper into a shared legacy. My relationship with my parents also evolved. After the wedding, I told them about my fortune. My mother cried with pride. My father hugged me. Daughter, I always knew you were special. I bought them a seaside home for their retirement. When Victoria found out, she tried to cozy up to them. We're both grandmothers now, Rosa. My mother, wise as ever, shut it down. Elena is my daughter. Don't judge her. That bond strengthened my humble roots against the snobbery. As for Carlos and me, our marriage grew stronger. We discuss finances openly. I don't want to depend on you, he said. We're a team, I replied. We travel, plan businesses together, and with the twins, we found the sweet spot between love and ambition. Victoria's therapy was key. I attended a family session. She admitted, I was afraid of losing Carlos. Like I lost my husband. We cried together. She's not perfect, but she's better. Cooking for the kids and sharing stories without judgment. Every time I remember the whisper, I feel a sting. But then I look at my life. A beautiful home, a united family, twins laughing, a foundation, changing lives. Family drama made me stronger, turning problems into opportunities. From a not enough bride to an empowered matriarch. My story is a testament to female resilience, and it all began with a whisper that underestimated my power.